God, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. Please be seated. Well, Merry Christmas to you all. It's good to see you all. It's good to be in this place together tonight. This week I was grabbed by that anthem that we sang tonight, that anthem that brings us into our Christmas worship, I think, just about every year. O come all ye faithful. O come all ye faithful. And as part of that, as I was reading through that great hymn again this week, I was captured by the words, O come, let us adore him. O come, let us adore him. Christ our Lord. So I decided to sort of revisit, maybe study a bit again, what it means to engage in adoration. What does that mean? So I went to the back of the prayer book. You may not know this, but in the back of our prayer book, there is what we call a catechism or an outline of faith. And it tells us that adoration is a kind of prayer. It's a prayer experience. In fact, in some of the things I've read, it says that adoration is the highest form of worship is adoration. And adoration is defined this way in the back of our prayer book. To come and adore him is simply to raise our hearts and our minds in thanksgiving for God, to God and for God. And then it goes on to say these words, asking nothing, just lifting our hearts and minds to God, asking nothing but to enjoy his presence. That's it. That's what adoration is. It's asking nothing else but just to be in and enjoy God's presence. And I thought, what a great place to begin. What a great place to begin tonight. We who are, if you're like me, you've gotten caught up in all the busy Christmas stuff, right? And I wonder how well we're doing at just being quiet and still and adoring him. Oh, come, let us just adore him. Oh, come, let us just sit and just delight in his presence. And let the power of his love spill over onto my life and yours. So as I was pondering these things, there's a story in a book by Brennan Manning. It's called, don't ever bring up a book if you can't remember the title of it. It's the Relentless Gentleness of Jesus. It's one of Brennan Manning's books, The Relentless Gentleness of Jesus. And he includes in this book, a wonderful story from the forest of Provence in the south of France. It's a story that he found that they include in their Christmas experience every year. And it's about the four shepherds. How many of you know the story of the four shepherds? It's not the three wise men, but the four shepherds. And so the way he tells the story is, and the way they are telling this story this night, is that these four shepherds came to visit the Holy Family. They came to visit the child that had been born into the world, this special child. And they brought gifts, right? That's what you do at Christmas. We bring gifts. And one brought eggs, and one brought bread and cheese. A third brought wine. It's going to be a good party, right? The third brought some wine, and the fourth brought nothing. Nothing. His name is L'Enchante. This is a French story. Come on. Now, I have to tell you, I was corrected when I preached this earlier. It seems like it was this morning. It was at 2 o'clock. Was the first time I preached this, but I have to tell you, I pronounced it L'Enchante, and a French person came up to me and said, it's L'Enchante, to which I said, in Palatka, it is L'Enchante. Something like that. Not really. That's how we speak French in Palatka. So anyway, we've got the four shepherds, right? And the shepherds have come to visit the family, and they sit around and they talk about, they're going through all what I would call the Christmas niceties. They're going through the protocol, the Christmas protocol. They're in that procession of conformity. They're commenting on how wonderful Mary looks, and the grotto or cave. It's so well appointed, Joseph. You've done such a lovely job. It's such a beautiful night. and they chat for a while, and they hand off their gifts, and then they say, if there's anything else we can do for you, just let us know. And then someone says, has anybody seen L'Enchante? L'Enchante. Has anybody seen L'Enchante? And they start looking all over for him. They can't find him. And then someone pulls back the blanket. It's like this. It protects the creche from a draft coming into the grotto or the cave. And so someone pulls back the blanket, and there is L'Enchante. That translates the enchanted one. There is the enchanted one. He's not so concerned about the gift giving and all the niceties and the right things to say to each other and all the superficial stuff that's going on the other side of the blanket. He is in adoration. He's just sitting there quietly, and throughout the night he will adore. Throughout the night he will stay there and he will adore the child, whispering quietly, Yesu, Yesu, Jesus, Jesus. The Holy One of God has come near. That love that has the power to change our world is falling on the enchanted one in that moment, and he will never, ever be the same. Others of us spend too much time in the superficial. We run around in that procession of conformity, and we're worried about this and about that, and all we have to do to find what we really want in life is just to spend a little bit more time adoring the one. Oh, come, let us adore him. This one whose life has the power to change my life and yours. His love has the power to transform my being. In fact, when you're in his presence, when you're in his presence in an adoring way, your soul just cries out, sings out thanksgiving. Taps into a hope, a possibility for life that sometimes we forget is possible to us, that we're capable of. So I was pondering these things, and then, as I oftentimes do, sometimes when I can't sleep at night, which is a lot, too many things. This is the story of priests. These are our lives. We wake up at 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning thinking about a lot of people and a lot of things, and so oftentimes I'll go out and even turn on the TV to help me try to go to sleep again. And it just so happened that I did that this past week. It was about 3:30, and I'm sitting there flipping the channels and praying I can sleep and thinking about all these things. And there was the movie Philadelphia. How many of you know that movie? How many of you have seen Philadelphia? Oh, come on. Tom Hanks. There's a scene in the movie Philadelphia that I was as soon as I turned it on, I knew God was present with me in that moment and wanted me to rest, but he wanted me to see this scene first. And so it's that extraordinary scene where many believe this is the moment where Tom Hanks won the Academy Award, 1993. It's about 23 years ago. In 93, Tom Hanks won the Academy Award because of this scene, many believe. It's the scene, it's the Umberto Giordano's, it's one of his operas. It's an aria from one of his operas. Do you remember Tom Hanks is the character he's playing? This is a true story, by the way. It's based on a true story. And the Tom Hanks character, his name is Andrew Beckett. Andrew Beckett is an attorney at a high-powered law firm in Philadelphia. Andrew Beckett is a gay man in a high-powered law firm in Philadelphia. Andrew Beckett is a gay man who's dying with AIDS in a high-powered law firm in Philadelphia. He is one of their top guns, right? Remember the story? And he's looking for, at some point along the way, the firm discovers that he is a homosexual and that he has AIDS. They begin to see the manifestations of that, and they push him out of the firm. They fire him. He then, after he collects himself, decides that he needs to He longs for justice. He longs for justice. And so he goes and tries to find an attorney, right, to represent him, and he can't find anybody to represent him. He ends up with this guy, the Denzel Washington character. You remember? The Denzel Washington character is Joe Miller. Joe Miller is scared to death of Andrew Beckett. Not only his sexuality, he's afraid of the disease. He's afraid of many. He's afraid. He's just afraid. I kept thinking, wow, that's who we are. Joe Miller represents all of us in some way, one way or another. Eventually, he decides something pulls on his life, and he decides to respond. And at some point in the film, Joe Miller has come over to help Andrew Beckett with his testimony the night before before he goes on the stand. And Andrew Beckett has another plan. He's not interested in doing that. He's dying. He's dying. He wants to tap into something else. And so he begins to play this aria from this Giordano opera. And the opera is set in the French Revolution, the time of the French Revolution, and Madeleine is the young daughter whose mother has died saving her from a house fire. And so I was thinking I might be able to memorize this, but I realized I couldn't. And so this is what Madeleine sings. And you've got to picture Andrew Beckett, the Tom Hanks character. Tom Hanks is up with his IV stand, and he's moving around the room, and he is in it, and he's bringing it to life, and it is dynamic. It's one of the most dynamic moments in cinematography. And then he begins to share with Joe Miller. Joe Miller doesn't know an opera he ain't got a clue about opera. And you could give him an hour to go research it. He couldn't figure it out, and he's way out of his comfort zone. Again, this is an important part in the film. Joe Miller is out of his comfort zone. And then the opera begins, the aria begins, and Andrew Beckett begins to share the words. Look, Madeleine says, the place where I was cradled, the place where I was cradled is burning. And then the Tom Hanks character looks over at the Denzel Washington character and says, Joe, can you hear the heartache in her voice? Joe, can you hear the pain and anguish in her voice? Joe, that's my heartache. That's my pain. That's my anguish tonight. Can you feel it, Joe? Can you feel it? And then he talks about how the strings come in and there's some measure of hope. And then the young woman sings again, but I bring sorrow to those who love me. Andrew Beckett is completely identifying with Madeleine in the opera. I bring sorrow to those who love me. And then he says, and then she sings, it was during this sorrow that love came to me. It was during this sorrow, then, that love came to me. And then you hear this other voice break in the aria. A totally different voice breaks in. And this is what the voice says. Live still, Madeleine. Live still, Andrew Beckett. I am life. Heaven is in your eyes. Is everything around you just the blood and the mud, the pain and the anguish of it all? No. I am divine. I am oblivion. I am the God who comes down to the earth and makes of the earth a heaven. I am the God who comes down from the heavens to the earth and makes of the earth a heaven. I am love. I am love. In that moment, Joe Miller is enchanted. In that moment, he is captivated. He is entranced. In that moment, his life begins to change. There's nothing in the film that suggests in any way that he changes his mind or is suddenly comfortable with Andrew Beckett's sexuality. There's nothing there. But it doesn't matter. All I know is that in the next scene, as Andrew Beckett is dying, Joe Miller finally touches him on the face. Finally touches him for the first time. Touches him on the face. And Joe Miller loves Andrew Beckett. You and I have a capacity for love that we rarely tap into. We settle for so much less. We get caught up in our disgusting and even pathetic skirmishes in ways that are terribly life-draining, that steal the life out of us and steals the life out of the people around us every day. The challenge before us this night is to understand in our minds, but then to open our hearts to a truth that a love has come from beyond to redefine the world, to recreate me, to make me different, capable of even loving those who are terribly different from me. Even as Jesus says, praying for my enemies and loving those who would hurt me, would bring harm to me. We have this enormous capacity for love, this creative capacity to change the world, to be constructive spirits of great construction. And yet we settle for destruction every day. We settle for the same mediocre, pathetic places, fear-filled places, hiding away, wanting our lives to be different. Tonight is about a love that promises to change my life and yours. Can wake us up to color. We have to spend some time in adoration. You can't just go on about your business this year like you did last year. Same old sort of procession of conformity. This year, you and I have got to spend more time just staying in His presence, enjoying and delighting in His presence, and letting His love spill onto our lives to inform our lives. This love that came from beyond has the power to change us, to transform us. And that's the gift of Christmas. That's what it's really about. That's what it's really about.